Recognize Mr. O'Rourke from Texas for a question.
Mr. Nelson, you cited the Secretary's goal of getting 50% of travelers enrolled in a secure traveler program like the Sentry program. And again, to use El Paso as an example, we have millions of border crossings every year, and the Mexican nationals who are crossing north really keep our retail economy alive. They spend upwards of $2 billion a year in El Paso, and you can imagine the thousands of jobs that are tied to that spending. And yet right now, those Mexican nationals are waiting 3 and 4 hours in auto lines, and I think more cruelly in pedestrian lines. It can be 35 degrees and raining in El Paso right now, and folks are waiting 3 and 4 hours for the privilege of spending their hard-earned dollars in the El Paso economy. As I mentioned earlier, with the prospect of sequester, furloughing agents, it could get even worse. One additional example, the Paso del Norte Bridge in downtown El Paso, of the 11 potential lanes at peak travel times, according to a study conducted last year by Cambridge Systematics, only 5 of those are manned. So I really appreciate the goal. However, enrollment in an application into the Sentry program costs $122, which may not seem like a lot to some of us, but for the folks who are crossing, that's not money that they ever have at any one given time for many of them. Is there any wisdom in finding a way to cover that cost for the benefit of having those folks screened, having biometric scanning, reducing the labor at the point of border crossing, and obviously helping the economy of El Paso and the United States?
Thank you for that question. I appreciate that. As we talk a lot about the balance between privacy and security, there's obviously the critical balance, and some would argue more critical at this juncture, between trade and security. And we have to provide a secure border, but we have to facilitate trade, not just with our partners up north, but obviously with your district near El Paso. Technology, the good thing about technology is over time the price goes down. It does become more affordable. And again, as I'm encouraging, as an enterprise-wide, approach to screening, DHS can see cost savings. And using something like biometrics, which is, is a confirmed someone identity, allows an individual or has to spend time screening those individuals that are at great risk. Most of the people that are crossing that border coming to the United States want to go back to Mexico. So how do we get them in the system once? And we can expedite how they're crossing. They can add to the economy of El Paso and then go back, and they're considered trusted. And then DHS can spend its time going after those that are trying to smuggle drugs or other illicit activities. So I think if they invest in this capability and pursue this, you will see a cost savings in terms of trade, and those kinds of programs will end up paying for themselves.
And for Governor Gilmore, again, I appreciate your comments in regards to how we better pursue war on drugs, stop illegal and dangerous drugs from coming into this country. But in the spirit of this panel and spending taxpayer dollars wisely, let me try to get at the solution that I hope to arrive at. We're spending billions of dollars right now to interdict these drugs, and by volume, marijuana is the largest. We have put up billions of dollars in walls. We've doubled the size of the Border Patrol. And as a father of 3 young children, I'm deeply concerned that marijuana is just as or even more available today, especially in middle schools, than it has been before. So, again, in the spirit of today's hearing, how do we spend that money more effectively, do a better job of interdicting and stopping those drugs from coming into our communities, and yet still meet all the other threats that are posed at our international border crossings?
Congressman, I've actually been to El Paso, and I appreciate your able representation of that community and your focus on their economic well-being, and I appreciate the spirit of your remarks here today. I've put a lot of thought into the drug issue, and you can tell by my emphasis today that I'm deeply concerned about it. I guess my answer to you is that I see the poisoning of young people, whether it's in El Paso or Chicago, as a threat to the national security, and that's the way I define national security, as well as Al-Qaeda and other potential attacks. So we can also broadly address the threat of this country as natural disasters. We just saw the protestations from the New Yorkers the other day because of the hurricane up there. Here's the answer, I think. I think that we have to put, the Congress should, and this committee should put a lot of thinking into the definition, as my colleagues have said, of what Homeland Security is, and then set its priorities, and then make a decision about where our limited funds are best spent. I, for one, believe that the enabling of any drug culture in this country is inimical to the interests of the United States. But I certainly acknowledge that you can pick and choose and make those decisions as to what the greatest threat to this country is and use your money accordingly.
Thank you.
Well,